Ed, you know, when he started out, after he got out of the Navy, he would go to these houses up the spirit phenomena. Next. That's Lorraine. If you saw The Conjuring 2, you saw the seance at the beginning. This was actually like a semi-seance, which were these investigators sitting around the table, Ed with a tape recorder, a cassette recorder, and Lorraine going into a light trance, trying to discern what happened in the house. Next. That's another shot of the foyer area. Next. That lady to the extreme left is a psychic, and the second to the left, the darker hair, that's Mary Pasquarella from Hamden. And Ed used to take her in on many cases, you know, because she was really, really good. Of course, Lorraine was just as good, if not better. But Ed, you know, when he started out, after he got out of the Navy, he would go to these houses, he would talk to the people would explain things to him. And finally, one time, Ed said, I'm going to bring a psychic in here. Remember, back then, he was in his early 20s, he didn't even know Lorraine was clairvoyant. Lorraine wanted to keep it to herself. She didn't even tell her family that she had these visions and that she could see auras. In fact, when she did see an aura, it was when she was 9 years old at Laurelton Hall. It was a Catholic girls' school only back then. And she commented to one of the classmates standing in line waiting to go into French class. She looked at one of the nuns, and she looked at the other nun, and she looked at the girl next to her. She said, look at Sister Joseph over there. Her lights are brighter than Mother Superior's lights are. She was talking about the aura around people. Everyone has that. An aura that goes all around your body. It's a supernatural glow. Lorraine could see it as a young child. And the thing is, Lorraine thought everybody could see it. But once she found out that she was different, she wanted to keep it to herself. She didn't want to be any different than anybody else. She wanted to be just like all the other girls. So Ed was walking through a house with a psychic he had brought in. It wasn't Mary Pasquarella, this was way back. It was another psychic. And the psychic is spewing out all this information to Ed and to the homeowner. And Lorraine stops and gets Ed alone with the homeowner without the psychic. And says, Ed, that psychic is totally off base. She's not giving true information on what has been going on here in the house and what's happening. And Ed looks at Lorraine and he says, Lorraine, what are you talking about? You're not a psychic. And the woman who owned the house looked at Ed and said, Mr. Warren, I got to tell you something. She's right. Your wife is right. That lady's really off base. Your wife is giving you the correct information. That's when Ed started to actually believe that Lorraine had psychic powers. And that's Ed over there, all the way to the right, of course, Lorraine. Next. That's the foyer area. Those are some of the investigators from Duke University milling around in the foyer and talking. Next. The guy you see in the middle, his name is Dr. Alex Tannis. He's a scientist from Duke University also, very smart man. Now, Lorraine is talking to this other guy. Tannis is looking at Lorraine, almost as if he wants to bite Lorraine's neck. It looks to me as he's a ghoul. He's actually, I said to Lorraine when I saw this photo, I said, Lorraine, who's the ghoul in the middle? Now look at the ectoplasmic material near his ear. I said, who is that guy? And she said, you know what? He's one of the nicest guys she'll ever meet. He's a very smart scientist, Dr. Tannis. He's a wonderful man, but I guess looks are deceiving. Next. There's George, and there's Kathy, and there's Lorraine. And of course, you see George got a cigarette in his mouth, in his hand. And I'm not here to preach anything to you, ladies and gentlemen, but don't smoke. If you smoke, quit. Because George died of a massive heart attack at age 61. He was a heavy smoker. Kathy, nice petite young girl, she was a smoker. She died of emphysema before age 61. She was about 55 or so. And so I know that it's not good to smoke. I used to smoke. I used to smoke like a chimney, like 4 packs a day. And I quit about almost 40 years ago. If I hadn't, I wouldn't be up here talking to you tonight. Next. That's Kathy in happier times, leaving her house. Very congenial, nice person. Next. That's just another picture of George and Kathy looking straight ahead. Next. Those are the children of George and Kathy who lived in the house. Next. The guy in the middle there, you can recognize him as James Brolin. And a lot of people say, hey, Tone, I didn't know you were there. But he's a handsome guy. I always liked him. And the girl, that was his then girlfriend. That's, of course, Lorraine on the right. Now, Lorraine, I asked her, I said, how was this guy? Lorraine, was he a nice guy or was he a jerk? You know what she said? He was the nicest guy in the world. He really liked us. He actually wanted to come with us to Australia because we were going to promote the Amityville Horror in Australia. He wanted to jump on the plane with us, but he couldn't. Next. This is Kathy taking a lie detector test from Chris Gugas and Mr. Rice, who are both polygraphers, very famous in California for lie detecting. Next. George taking the same exam. Next. Of course, I can't read any of that because my eyes are not that good. Maybe Chris, can you read it or no? Or one of you guys can? Come on up a little closer. Dan, can you make that focus as sharp as you can? This is the actual polygraph report, the third page of the polygraph report on Kathy Lutz from Gugas and Rice.
Number one, while in the Amityville house, did you actually see yourself as an old woman? The subject answered yes. Number two, or number four rather, while in the Amityville house, were you embraced by an invisible being? The subject answered yes. Number five, while in your Amityville bed, did you actually feel the presence of an invisible being over you? The subject answered yes. After Mr. Rice evaluated Mrs. Lutz's charts, it was his opinion that she answered truthfully to all the critical questions listed above, and that no deception was indicated to any of these questions. Respectfully submitted, Chris Gugas and Michael Rice.
And that was done in 1979, so she passed, and so did George, ladies and gentlemen, with flying colors. They did not make up this story. The story was not a fake, wasn't a hoax. Remember, people don't want to believe that the supernatural like this can happen to someone. So as soon as a report comes out that this was a hoax, people want to believe it. And the town fathers are the ones who generated that hoax story because the people who heard about this and saw the movie were coming out, stealing the clappers off the house. They stole the Amityville town sign. I mean, so when that starts to happen, vandalism, and you have to have extra police presence, the mayor or whoever comes out and says it's a hoax and people automatically believe it and they go away. Next thing. That's the Red Room. That's the room that Ronald DeFeo Jr. used to house his satanic artifacts. Next. Who knows who this gentleman is? Padre Pio. Hey, Padre Pio, man. This guy was somebody, I'll tell you right now. He was a monk who lived in a monastery in San Giovanni Rotondo, Italy. His real name was Frangione. His last name was Frangione. And this man was such a pious and holy individual that he suffered stigmata for the wounds of Christ on his hands, his feet, and his side for over 50 years. Each day, this man, this priest, this monk, would bleed approximately 1 cup of blood every single day. He also had the gift of bilocation, the gift of discernment. He was a miracle man. He healed people's ills. There was a woman in Italy who was born without pupils. She couldn't see. Padre Pio prayed over her, and lo and behold, even without pupils, she began to see. That's why he's now a saint. He's Saint Padre Pio. And there's a reason why I'm showing you this photo. Next. That's an upside down photo, Dan. We're going to go right to the next one. That is Padre Pio in the antlers of the deer. You see in the middle there? That's That's an image of Padre Pio. And why is that image of Padre Pio there in the antlers? I'll tell you why. The upside down picture had it, but you can't see it. It was Lorraine holding a relic of Padre Pio in her hands. He died in '68, and this was in '76 when she was in the house, but she prayed to Padre Pio for guidance. And after a priest, his name was Father Negre, who knew Padre Pio, she showed this photo to Father Negre and said, "Father, why would Padre Pio appear to me in that photo? Why did he appear to me in the house?" And the priest just looked at it very calmly and said, "Well, you must have asked him to." And he did. He showed up. Next. You can't see it very good here. It's too bad. But if you look really closely at the railing to the left door, right above the railing on the left door, there's a little face peering out at you. It's a little boy with bioluminescent eyes, ladies and gentlemen. This shot was taken a year after the murders by photographers with Ed and Lorraine Warren and Jenna Five. It's not a great photo, but hey, you know, with the projector you can't really see it good. But you can see a face there. We don't know who it is. It could be one of the young boys that was murdered in the house. Next, Dan. Okay, I want to show you this for a reason. Who saw The Conjuring 2? Raise your hands. Good. Everybody else leave. Get out now. Exits are over there. Go see the movie. Now, The Conjuring 2 is about the poltergeist phenomena in Enfield, England. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the family. That's Peggy on the left. It's Margaret and Janet to the right and left of Lorraine. And Tommy and Billy, the young boys that lived in that little council house in Enfield, England. And the phenomena that occurred in that house, ladies and gentlemen, is unbelievable. We had an investigator there. His name is John Kennyhurst. We know him very well. He's still around. He used to work at St. Vincent's Hospital as a technician for 34 years. But back in '79, he visited the house with Ed and Lorraine. He was their photographer. He reported to me this, that he was sitting in the couch listening to Ed speak to the girls and to the family in the other room. He was just relaxing. Suddenly he heard like a plop sound, a plopping noise. He looks a few feet ahead of him on the floor, on the carpeting. There's a huge pile of human excrement on the floor. It just appeared right in front of him. And I said, "John, what do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah." And it was like so big, but it was from a person, you could tell. And it was real because we had to go get paper towels and stuff and pick it up. It just appeared right there. And wallpaper would peel off the walls on its own, fly above his head, and hover above the light in the kitchen. Then one time, Ed said, and this is the crazy part, in The Conjuring 2, they had a spirit by the name of Wilkins and some other names, but the names that they gave Ed were Fred and Tommy. And they were issuing out of thin air. They would talk to Ed like I'm talking to you. They would answer his questions, and they would converse back and forth. Now, Ed tried to get a priest to come and bless the house. The priest didn't come that night, couldn't make it. So Ed said to John Kennyhurst, he said, "John, there's a bottle of holy water in the back seat of the car. Go get it. I'm going to mix it with salt. I'm going to make my own holy water out of it, impromptu holy water." So John walks out to the car, knows exactly where the holy water is. Comes back in the house after about 10 minutes, says, "Ed, I can't find the holy water. It's not there." Ed says, "What do you mean you can't find the holy water?" "Ed, I knew it was sitting right there, and now it's not. I can't find it." So Ed says, "Get me some tap water and some salt. I'm going to make my own holy water." So that holy water in the car was blessed. He couldn't find it. So Ed's going to do his own. He does it. And he starts to walk throughout the house. And he starts to say a prayer. And he says, "With this holy water, I'm going to..." And a voice issues out of thin air and says, "That's not blessed." Just like that. That's not blessed. In other words, that spirit knew everything Ed was doing and knew, as a mocking, that you're not using real holy water. It's not going to have any effect. Next. This is Janet. She would levitate out of her bed and crisscross. Her sister would also levitate out of the bed. Remember, this is a small council house. It's similar to a welfare home in England. And they they would, while they're sleeping, they would just levitate off their bed and crisscross to the other's bed. Next. And this is the house. Of course, the house is upside down too. We dropped the slides out and I tried to quickly put it back in. Now, this one here is Maurice Theriault. Maurice, I'm going to play in a minute. I'm going to play the exorcism of Maurice. A farmer from Warren, Massachusetts, ladies and gentlemen, who would come under diabolical possession. Imagine a man so strong. He was about 5'6", about a 160. He's a farmer, so he was wiry, right? But how many guys do you know with their two hands could lift up, grab the bumper, and lift up the front of like a 74 Chevy pickup truck off the ground with his two arms so his son can change the tire? That's how strong this guy could get. We call that spirit. And he would also bleed from no point of origin, from his eyes, from his mouth, his nose, and he would have cross-like marks appear on his back and on his chest, like someone took a scalpel and just made a cross mark on his back. Next. That's blood that would appear out of nowhere. One time, Ed was investigating with Lorraine. They're walking around, all of a sudden there's blood on his t-shirt, on Maurice's t-shirt. Ed says, Maurice, can you do me a favor? Could I take your t-shirt and have that blood analyzed? Something's weird about that blood. It just appears like that. So Maurice says, sure, Ed. He gives him the shirt. Ed puts it in a plastic bag. At the end of the night, Ed's going to go out and get something to eat. He goes to the car and he says, let me check that. I want to look at that t-shirt again. He pulls out the t-shirt. There's no blood on the shirt. It's all gone. Just vanished. Next. This is Maurice lifting up a 300-pound concrete religious statue. He could just lift it up with no problem. Next. And this is one of our investigators, 22 years old, Jerry. He says, I can lift that up. This is no big deal. He couldn't even budge it. Couldn't even budge it. Next. This one I want to tell you about. A man named Chinnery and his wife were in England, in Ipswich, England, and they were taking a picture of the mother's grave. The mother had died 2 weeks prior, and the woman is crying over the grave, taking photos of the grave. Some people do that. And the last photo, she had on the camera, she wanted to use it up so she would take it and get it developed. She says to her husband, why don't you jump in the car and I'll take the last photo. She takes the picture. You look in the back seat where that arrow is pointing, you can see the image of a woman wearing glasses. And when it was developed, the daughter looked at it and said, that's my mom. That's my mom. Came back, because she wanted to go for those Sunday drives that they used to always go for. Ghosts, ladies and gentlemen, are real. Spirits are real. Devils and demons are real. Next. This is Union Graveyard, ladies and gentlemen. From where we stand right now, this is probably one of the most haunted graveyards, I'd say, in the country. And it's in Easton, which is near Monroe. It's about 3.5 miles from Ed Lorraine's house in Easton. It was founded in 1760, but there's an entity that's been spotted at this place in numerous times. I'd say thousands of times by different people. The White Lady of Union Graveyard. You can look it up on Google. Just punch in the White Lady of Union. Next. That's the house that the Barberi brothers used to live in about 80 years ago above the graveyard in a farmhouse. They both, those two brothers, both reported seeing a ghostly image. Next. This is the kind of phenomena that you would get with a regular 35mm film taken right outside the gate. You guys could go there tonight or don't, but you could go there tonight. Sit outside the gate, take photos with a digital camera, and get images such as this. Next. Now this is kind of wild right here. A young man from Stratford, his name was Bob. He worked for Sikorsky. He came up to Ed Lorraine one day. Now this is way back in the mid-90s. He said, Mr. Warren, can I show you some photos? He said, yeah, what do you got, kid? That's how he just called everybody kid. And he said, I got these 3 photographs. He goes, I had a 35mm camera. I went to Union, and I just stood in one location. I took 3 shots. And I didn't move the camera at all. I just took 3 pictures. And I waited about 15 seconds between photos. And remember, it was not a digital camera. They didn't have them back in 90s, whatever. But they have them now. So he did a film camera. He didn't see anything with his bare eyes. or through the viewfinder, only when he got it developed. This is the first shot, right? Where you see ectoplasmic material beginning to form. Next. Now you see the ectoplasmic material forming a little more with, looks like it might be a face starting to manifest on the left side there. You almost see two eyes, right? Now, for those of you in the audience tonight who are skeptical, who don't believe in ghosts, who don't believe that spirits are really there, that can't manifest, I want to show you this in a second. This photograph just might change some of your minds about the spirit realm. Next. There it is. That is what we think is the White Lady of Union Cemetery, taken by this young man. And in fact, she's been spotted so many times that it's probably the most famous ghost that I can recall. We've had people driving down Route 59, one man named Rod. Unfortunately, he worked with us for a long time after that, after he started New Ed. He's driving home from Home Depot where he worked late at night on Route 59 going past the graveyard. It was like an October night. It was clear, kind of like tonight. As he's driving down the road, he said he felt something in his passenger seat. So he turns his head and sees, sitting in the seat next to him, a man dressed in like 1940s garb with a stubbly beard and a crumply hat, just staring straight ahead. So, as most people would do, you do a double take, kind of. So Rob went like, what? And the guy's gone. He looks towards the road. About 35 yards ahead of him is a lady dressed in a white gown, with a white veil, standing in the middle of the road. And she goes like this, puts her hand up slowly, just like that, as if to try to stop him. Now, he told me that he was only going about 30 miles an hour. So I slowly applied the brakes. The second I touched the brakes, it's like she sped up and went boom, 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 jumped forward through my car, right through his car, and he said he felt a wisp of air go past his right ear. And then he looks at the road again, and all he sees on his side of the road was almost like somebody took a paintbrush with all wet red paint, all the way down about 300 yards on his side only. He felt such compassion for this lady, such sorrow, he said, that when he got home at about 1 o'clock at night, he woke his wife up and he's crying to her, sobbing. He said he felt such a compassion for her, such sympathy, like she was trying to tell him something about what happened to her. To this day, we don't know who the White Lady is. We don't know what happened to her, but we think she's trying to tell people that something bad happened, like a murder to her, but we still don't know her identity. Let's try another one, Dan. I don't know what's next. Yeah, this was taken actually in Milford, not that far from here. Milford, Connecticut. Young man was proud of a wall that he put up in his new apartment. He asked the landlord if he could build a little den, and they said yes. So he took a photograph with a regular film camera, and when he got the film back, he says to his wife, look, they ruined it. They ruined my picture. There's a bunch of guys' faces in this photograph. And he's all angry about it. Next thing. Yeah, try one more. That's a close-up. These, we found out, were Civil War soldiers from the Civil War that appeared on this gentleman's photograph. You know, spirits live on forever, so a lot of spirits can be earthbound. You can die physically, but your spirit, of course, does not die. And if you are the kind of person that was very close to your belongings, or very close to the earthly plane because you didn't believe that much in the Lord, you can remain earthbound for a long time. But God will allow that. He'll allow you to remain earthbound. And that's what happened with these soldiers, perhaps. They're reliving what happened to them in this area. Let's try one more, Dan, and we'll take not a break, but this is the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. I talk about spirits lingering. This photograph was taken in 1937 by Captain Provan, who was commissioned by Lord Townsend to take photographs of his mansion in Norfolk, England, for insurance reasons. When they got this film developed, there was this image of this woman coming down the stairs. If you look, you can see a slight image of a lady coming down the stairs, the center staircase, the grand staircase. We found out later that she was a real woman. She wasn't just a spirit. She was Dorothy Walpole, who lived in that mansion with her husband. was said to have starved her to death in the attic rooms of that mansion over 300 years prior. So 300 years prior to 1937, she was murdered and starved to death. It's a horrible way to die. And then she shows up 300 years later on an image. I want to do one thing now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see some videos next, but before we do that, I have a surprise for you guys. I wasn't sure if I wanted to show this surprise to you or not, and but then I decided after thinking about it that you guys deserve it. You deserve to take photos too. So, what I have for the first time in my presentation, I've done a lot of them. For the first time ever, I'm going to unveil an artifact that you're all familiar with. And it's housed in a museum now, but I took her out. You think it's the Annabelle Doll, don't you? If I told you that I brought the real Annabelle Doll tonight, would you believe me? If I said I brought that Raggedy Ann doll out, that cursed doll that puts slashes on people, and we believe is responsible for the death of a young man who came on a motorcycle, would you believe me? Good, because I didn't bring her tonight.
Thank you, God.
I didn't bring her tonight.
Thank you.
I was going to bring something else that was just as bad, but then I said, no, I'm going to bring something that they're going to really, really enjoy. I hope you enjoy it. Dan, come on up here with me. You can't see it because I have it hidden in the back here. Come on up, Dan. It's right here. And then I'm going to bring her a little closer. I'm going to bring this thing a little closer when we unveil her. We're going to throw the lights on her. Now, how many people think it's something really, really cool? Raise your, yell out. Cool, cool. Maybe there's nothing under here. Maybe I'm just a jokester. No, this is really cool. You're going to like her. You ready? I'm going to count to 3, Dan. Hold on. Make sure you got both. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Lights, please. Lights. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the real movie Annabelle Doll.
Movie doll.
Very close. Yep.
Bring the real one out.
I'm going to bring her up close, let you look at her. And you're going to take pictures later on with her if you want. But you can't touch her. You can't touch her because she's kind of fragile. I can touch her, but she's very fragile.
Wait, where'd she go?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is from the Annabelle movies. Annabelle 1, 2. Now remember, they made more than one Annabelle doll. But this is one of the ones they used for Annabelle and Annabelle creation. They made various incarnations of the face. Some look scarier than others. But this is her. Wave to everybody, Annabelle. Wait a minute. She's letting the third finger go to you, sir. Okay, so, what do you think? Yes? The first time this doll has ever been seen in public by me. You know, Warner Brothers has displayed her, but they sent the doll to me and said you could have her, which was very nice of them to do. And I said, I'm going to keep her. I'm going to keep her in the museum next to the real Annabelle doll. I didn't build a really good case yet for it, but Dan's going to build one identical to the one that's in the movie, and we're going to put it next to the real doll. So we're not going to get one. We won't get confused. They look a lot different. But there it is. So now we're going to bring her back out of the picture for a minute until we play some videos for you. Then at the end, you can take photos near her. Thank you, thanks. I thought you guys deserved it. If anybody deserves it, it's people from the New Haven area. Because you guys are loyal. The first audience ever to see her. Ever. To see her in the world. To see her in a presentation. So Dan, let's do this. Let's go for some video. And I think the first thing that we want to put on, excuse me.
I was expecting her to move.
We'll take her out. Which one is that? Let's play it.
Some fishing line and they can move around.
Okay. True story of Annabelle. It's about 6 minutes long. Mysteries at the museum, and features a guy who I swore when I saw him, I thought it was George Clooney, but it was actually me. Here you go. This will give you the real story, not the movie story, the real story of Annabelle.
Connecticut. This idyllic New England town is home to a bizarre collection of artifacts that are not for the faint of heart. This is the Warrens' Occult Museum.
I would describe this museum as probably the most haunted location, I'd say, on Earth, because the objects that are here are unholy, they're unblessed.
Since 1952, this unconventional museum has housed a sinister array of skulls, satanic idols, and other cursed objects. But according to curator Tony Sparrow, the most diabolical item here is a simple child's doll named Annabelle.
The doll, at first glance, looks like any other rag doll. It's got the stringy hair, it's got the button eyes, and it's got striped feet. It's just a beautiful little doll to some little girl. But this doll is not the kind of doll you want to give to your daughter.
The curators at the Warrens' Occult Museum believe that Annabelle has the power to kill.
We believe it's responsible for the death of the young man that came here to the museum.
So what is the real story behind this devilish doll named Annabelle? Connecticut, 1970. A nursing student named Donna is celebrating her 28th birthday with her roommate, Angie. To mark the occasion, Donna's mother has sent her a rag doll. But what none of them know is that this is no ordinary doll. Donna keeps the toy on her bed as a reminder of her mother's love. Then, one day, when the girls come home from class, they notice something strange. The doll has moved.
And they'd come home and the doll's legs would be crossed, or the arms would be crossed. And they started to get a little suspicious, like, what's going on with this doll?
And it seems that the doll's powers don't stop there.
They'd find notes written on parchment paper in pencil, saying things like, help me, help us. Little notes that didn't make any sense.
At first, the girls seek a rational explanation for the mysterious notes.
The girls thought maybe someone was getting into the apartment. What they did is they marked things to see if when you walk in the door, you're going to move the rug a little bit. The nurses said, we'll know someone was in here. Well, nothing was moved, except the doll. That freaked them out.
Fearing that there may be a malignant force at work in their apartment, the girls call in a medium and hold a seance.
The psychic said, you have a spirit of a little girl named Annabelle. She was killed in this apartment.
Then the medium reveals that the spirit of the dead girl has possessed the doll.
She's in that doll. She's the one that's trying to communicate. Now they're concerned for Annabelle. And now they really started to treat Annabelle as a human.
But not everyone is convinced. Donna's friend Lou refuses to believe the doll is possessed. A mistake he would come to regret. One afternoon, while Lou is taking a nap, he has a terrifying nightmare.
Annabelle is crawling up his leg, coming at him. He said, and then she gets to the top near my neck and she starts to squeeze my neck like she's trying to strangle me.
Lou wakes up, gasping for breath.
And when he looked down and opened the shirt up, you could actually see claw marks. Now they knew. They were frightened.
Desperate to be rid of the evil effigy, Donna and Angie contact Ed and Lorraine Warren, founders of the Warrens' Occult Museum. And the Warrens have some alarming news. They believe that the spirit lurking within the doll isn't a dead girl, but a demon.
I didn't want to take the doll, and I didn't want to go near it. I didn't want nothing to do with it.
But Ed Warren is willing to face down the doll. He agrees to collect Annabelle and bring her back to the museum.
The car ride home was terrible. You knew that you were carrying something that was bad, evil.
He'd be taking corners, and all of a sudden the car would be jerking, and then it'd start to stall out on him. Very uncharacteristic of the car. Finally, he stopped the car. He took a vial of holy water and he sprinkled it on Annabelle in the back seat, and he made the sign of the cross.
Ed's actions may have saved their lives.
He seemed to calm Annabelle down enough to make it home safely.
And for a time, it seems as if the spirit that appeared to inhabit Annabelle has been cast out, until several years later, when one skeptical visitor challenges Annabelle to demonstrate her powers.
This young man, he runs up to the case. He says, "This is a bunch of bunk. I don't believe any of this stuff. If this thing can put slashes on somebody, do something to me right now." Ed was like flabbergasted. He said, "Hey, son, sorry, you have to leave." 3 hours later, this young man was dead. He died instantly when he hit a tree head-on with his motorcycle.
Did Annabelle put a curse on the man and cause his death? Of course, there's no way to prove it.
The lesson you learn from this story is you do not challenge evil. You do not challenge the demonic.
And whether you believe it or not, this chilling tale is enough to persuade visitors to the Warrens' Occult Museum to choose their words carefully when in the presence of Annabelle the doll.
So that's the real story of Annabelle, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the movie version. This really happened to these nurses. They were really, really scared when they got slashes appear on Lou's chest and on his stomach. It's like someone took a scalpel and just went 4 here, 3 on the stomach. But the next thing I want to show you, the first thing you're going to see is the moving table and chairs from, of all places, ladies and gentlemen, West Haven, Connecticut.
Oh, that's
West
fun.
Haven, Connecticut. It seems like the Haven area's got a lot of stuff going on. I don't know what you guys are doing out there, but you must be doing something. You guys are out of control over here. So, what you're going to see, though, is the moving table and chairs from West Haven, Connecticut, where Ed had actually commanded in the name of Jesus Christ to reveal its identity. What was happening was a young girl was being bothered by a poltergeist. The table would move, she'd try to do her homework, the chair would move up and down, she'd try to go to sleep at night, something would happen where her head would just keep going up and down unconsciously while she's trying to sleep. So at one point, Ed did use what's known as religious provocation. He used religious resistance, as you know, in Amityville, but in West Haven, he used religious provocation to reveal its identity. Not religious challenging. When you see guys like Zach on Ghost Hunter saying, "I command you now to tell me where you are, who you are, what you are," Zach's doing it all wrong. He left out a very important word, God. In the name of God, I command you to reveal your identity. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to reveal your identity. Not, I command you to reveal your identity. The devil doesn't have to listen to you, but to listen to God's words. If it's God's invocation, that's a little different. So Ed used to say, in the name of Jesus Christ and the blood of Christ, I command you to reveal your identity. And it did, to a degree. It moved the chair, let him know he was there. So that, and you're going to see what's after that? I forget what's after that. You're going to see 3 more episodes of things. It's short, though, of different things. And one of them at the end, the last one is going to be Ed in the museum talking about some of the artifacts. Good, you can put it on and shut the lights. This might start out kind of loud, so be careful with the volume.
And Lorraine Warren.
But it's not too bad. You can raise it up a little. That's good.
It can be terrifying.
Raise it up a little.
So if anybody says that a
Good.
poltergeist is mischievous, they better take a second look. During their 50 years of hunting ghosts, Ed and Lorraine claim to have encountered hundreds of poltergeists.
They've also been the subject of numerous books and have consulted on several high-profile cases, including the Amityville Horror.
Poltergeist is nothing more than a devil or a demon as far as we're concerned. People say, this guy's going back into the medieval ages. There are no such things as devils or demons. Yes, there are.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
The Warrens feel that some of the most compelling evidence ever recorded has been videotaped by them in this Connecticut home. For months, the family, whose faces are obscured to protect their identity, have been tormented by what they fear is a poltergeist. Ed attempts to communicate with the troubled spirit.
One knock for yes, two for no. Are you a man? Are you a boy?
The mother leans against the kitchen table, her hands in full view as Ed continues asking questions.
You want the people of this house to move? One knock for yes, two for no. Yes. Okay. Who's the thing you don't like the most here? Is it? Is it their father? Is it their mother? Okay. I command you to reveal your identity.
Next, Ed decides to confront the poltergeist alone.
Give me some sign. Is that you moving something? Give me some sign that you're here. What I did was use religious provocation. I have to provoke it into some type of outward manifestation. And that was my point in doing that. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to reveal your identity.
On the following night, the family reports that the poltergeist seems to be more active than ever. Only now, its attention is focused on the family's 10-year-old daughter.
The little girl is trying to do her homework, but you can see that the chair keeps sliding backwards. You're holding it down, aren't you? It's got that much strength to it. Now, if you watch, you can see the little girl's legs are up on the rungs of the chair. She's not pushing herself up from the floor. The mother is not tipping that chair backwards. Nobody is touching that table. The table moves of its own volition.
The Warrens quickly arrange for 3 priests to perform an exorcism in the home, and the disturbance ends. But for how long? Could the angry poltergeist ever return?
We have found that it can be quieted down, but then it'll escalate again. We still keep our fingers crossed because it could, and we hope and pray it don't.
The next thing you're going to see is Halloween special.
Tonight, honey.
Meet Ed and Lorraine Warren, 67-year-old great-grandparents. For the past 45 years, despite the sneers of non-believers, they've fought an enemy as old as time, evil itself.